You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amberdata. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amberdata delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amberdata eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Monday. It is time once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program here on the network where we go beyond our traditional stomping ground, see what's cooking in the world of Bitcoin and ETH and Solana derivatives and all sorts of fun therein. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you at the top of the show, first off, you should be listening to the full network. A lot of you are coming to this show a little bit newer to the world of options, so shows like Options Bootcamp will serve you well in getting up to speed on all things options. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to ask questions in our pro Q&A sessions, you want to join us at the end of each week after Volatility Views for some awesome, unusual activity sessions. Only one place to go to get access to all that. theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us on the old program this week, it is time to roll out the Crypto Hot Seat.
Forget about cold storage. It's time to turn up the heat on thought leaders from the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time to take their place on the Crypto Hot Seat.
All right, everybody, it is time for the Crypto Hot Seat. Time to welcome on guests from throughout the world of crypto derivatives and indeed beyond. And I'm pleased to welcome back onto the program. It's been quite some time. An old friend. It's been since January 22nd of 2019. Oh my God, since we've talked to him on this program. Can that possibly be right? Pre-pandemic.
I don't think that's right.
Wow, that's crazy. Our old pal, Mr. Tony Saliba, the founder and CEO over there at Liquid Mercury, also moonlighting over there as the founder of Matrix Executions. You did join us for a pro Q&A, Tony, back in 2023, but on this show, it's been since 2019. Wild.
Oh my God.
Wild that it's been so long. How's it going, sir?
It's going great, Mark. How you been?
We've been busy. A lot of folks tune into the world of options and derivatives and indeed crypto since last we chatted. A little thing called the pandemic happened. which pretty much drove everybody to our door. So it's been wild times.
And such with us. I left my role as CEO of Matrix in 2022, handed off to Jordan Naylor, and came over here to join Joe Piotrowski at Liquid Mercury. And we're doing what we did there and at Liquid Point in the world of digital assets. So it's pretty cool.
Let's get into that then. It's been since, like we said, since 2019 since you joined us on the show. We've had quite a few new listeners join us since then. So let's start with the basics. What the heck is Liquid Mercury? What are we talking about, sir?
We're a fintech company dedicated to digital assets, crypto, and real-world assets. We have our mainstay sell-side workflow automation, our matching engine, liquidity as a service, and then a buy-side platform for market makers, traders, hedge funds. And then in real-world assets, we delivered platforms for things that you probably never would have thought would be trading. And I think what might have sparked your attention last week is our press release on our latest real-world asset client, Devin, D-V-I-N, Devon. It's a investible wine platform that tokenizes investable wine, works very closely with bond houses around the world. They've got half a dozen bond houses in tow, and then the wine clubs, which there are a handful that range in the more than 10 million members to these wine clubs. And so Devon's goal is to deliver a tradable, tokenized secondary market for investable wine, and they chose us.
I love it, Tony. You're always bringing on interesting new assets onto the show whenever we chat. I didn't think when we started the show this week we'd be talking about wine on the Crypto Rundown. But these are the markets you drag us into, which is fascinating because, as you mentioned, there is an audience out there. There are people out there, quote unquote, investing in wine. They're usually going out there and maybe buying wine futures, or they're pre-buying cases at discounted prices. Most of that at the end of the day is to take delivery for their own consumption. Sometimes there is some speculation going on there as well. But for the most part, it is a very, let's say, a subset of a subset market. But intriguing to kind of open all this up. So let's get into that a little bit. How does this work? Let's say I'm listening on this show and I am intrigued about dipping my toes into the world of wine investing. How does this work? I can't just go into my, let's say, Thinkorswim account and buy some wine tokens, can I?
Not yet. No. I mean, they definitely have plans. So we're delivering the technology. This is not our idea, although we bought into the idea. We liked it. We understand it. And we have helped them with our technology to add some capabilities. But just for your listeners, the scope and size of it, it's a $1 trillion plus asset class, with about 300 billion of that being investable grade wine, and about a third of that, or about $100 billion a year, turns over in the luxury wine category. So what these folks did is, and actually is touched by about 250 million consumers worldwide. So you have the makings of a fairly decent marketplace. And what they've done is gone along, as I mentioned at the top, cut deals with these wine clubs. There's about 5 wine clubs that they have already, let's see, 7. Clubs like Reserve Bar or Wrecked Wine or Magic Decent, a couple others that those are in the EU, Reserve Bars here in the US. So they have deals to connect their client base to our platform so they can have access to these tokens. And what they do is they work with the bonded warehouses, which they've got 4 bonded warehouses, one in the U.S., one in the EU, one in Australia, one in Hong Kong, and they've got a few others coming online. And by tokenizing the wine, which is not for drinking, I mean, it is there for investment purposes, although within the first 2 years they plan on doing deliveries, they will provide on our platform a method to speculate, invest, take advantage of fluctuation in wine prices without having to pay the storage or take delivery, or what's even worse, because, Mark, I've got a pretty substantial wine collection, but I have it all at home in these big wine caves, and I drink it. But if I ever wanted to sell it, I would have to go through, testing and recertification, because who knows how I've kept my wine over the years. And I think a lot of people have that problem. So if you just want to invest in wine. Now, having said that, there are some wine indexes out there already that are not tokenized and don't have this elaborate of a system, but the system was all in place in terms of the relationships. And our technology just happened to be flexible enough to suit their needs. And they're using our matching engine. We've got typical things you're aware of, IOIs and RFQ capabilities. And these guys, they're Americans living abroad that want to eventually have an index and do options on them. So we're all set. Our technology is set up to do all that.
I love it, Henry. The original liquid asset, right? To wine.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys want to go to our website, liquidmercury.com /DVIN, you can see some of the networks there and a little bit of the information, our press release. And actually, we're taking names for people who want, to get on their mailing list and learn more about the launch, which will be imminently, sometime early in the second quarter. We're actually going to go live with them.
Oh, so, that's soon. Oh, great. So you don't have to wait that long, listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're thirsty, I can do the puns for days here, Tony. If you're thirsty to get more info on this, this is the way to go. But you mentioned, speaking of thirsty, that's kind of been the audience for this. That's who's been, quote unquote, investing and trading in this for ages. You had to have an inner desire, a demand to take delivery at the end of the day. The lion's share of what you were buying was probably for your own consumption. You might store it. You might eventually think about selling and quote unquote investing in some cases down the road. But you're right. It was a highly illiquid marketplace. Finding a bid to hit when you want to get out of it, certainly a challenge. On top of that, as you mentioned, having to recertify and regrade it, have to make sure you're storing it the right way. It's a very laborious thing. What you're talking about here, Tony, leveraging your technology to now maybe take a lot of that out of people's hands. Let's say they don't even drink wine. Let's say they're not even there to take delivery at the end of the day. This could still be a viable asset class for them, Tony, because they're looking to take advantage of the technology to just speculate, and they don't even need to store it. It stays in the warehouses, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's really clean cost-wise because for those reasons you just mentioned, Mark, if you want to speculate and to spend a couple $1,000s speculating or go larger, obviously, you can watch these prices change. And, they've got wine experts on board. There's actually a social media aspect that they're bringing into the token so that they'll have anybody who's trading it will get invitations to exclusive wine meetups in a city near them. They're going big in terms of London, Sydney, Madrid, and then they'll pick a city or two here in the U.S., also Singapore and Hong Kong. So it's an international crowd, but you can still dabble or go large and invest. And that's, they've got all the documentation in terms of the bonded warehouses. These are, not to be trifled with. London City Bond, Bordeaux City Bond, Berry Brothers, very recognizable names are already on board. So it's pretty cool. And, as I said, we have a number of these projects that have selected our technology, and we don't come up with these ideas. We just, deliver technology that's flexible enough to adhere to their ideas and make it, very tradable for people like us who trade options and understand volatility. Someday there'll probably be, a volatility index on a class of wine, for instance.
Yeah, I love it. Wine vol. Now you're speaking my language here, Tony. That's good stuff. You envision a marketplace pretty soon where we could go out there, you can have a tokenized underlying on wine, and then have a full order book powered by, of course, what you folks are doing over there at Liquid Mercury. You're going to see bids and offers and eventually even options, Tony, on this going forward.
So these guys are Americans. They're based in Barcelona, actually, but they traded options, not professionally, but they have the options bug, and they love the idea to get to options as soon as possible. And I think that's one of the reasons why they selected us, because, we have our spread book and all of the exchange automation that we're known for. So it's pretty cool. And as a tie-in, so our token, which is the MERC, MERC, will be fungible to some degree. We'll post what the swap rates will be, but we have a number of real-world assets. Like we have return/refurbished, recertified goods from some of the largest names like Best Buy and Walmart, Target, Costco, that is going onto our system shortly. And with the wine tokens, the refurb goods, we've got music rights, income sharing for influencers, all on our platform will all be tied in to our token, where if you're an owner of the MERC, you'll be able to sample these, exchange it for bottles of wine or Bugatti scooters, for instance, or take a flyer on your favorite artist's progression in Spotify, for instance. That's a project that we're getting very close to closing in on. So we're really focusing on real world assets to a great degree.
Yeah, you mentioned there the impact of tokens. A lot of people have been whispering in my ear for some time. I just came back from the big FIA show. A lot of people were pulling me aside, whispering in my ear about the future of tokenization. Everyone had a good laugh. Everyone had fun with NFTs and all the Bored Apes and all the silliness that happened there. But behind the scenes, tokenization seems like it's firmly taking root in the financial markets in particular. The prospects for tokenizing, you just ran down a litany of potential assets that were not tradable before, but with the advent of tokenization, could potentially become liquid tradable assets. So, Tony, it sounds like in your view, you also see tokenization as very much the future of markets going forward.
Absolutely. Well, Dan Tapiero, who runs a large tokenized fund, series of funds, give him credit for this recently, said that the internet was the digitization of ideas and information. And so that kind of took us all. I mean, the internet was around from the late 60s, being used by the government and some universities, the University of Illinois being one of the progenitors of the internet. But when Andreessen launched Netscape, all of a sudden it gave color and pictures to this thing called the internet. Well, crypto or tokenization is the digitization of money and the ability to monetize things, unlike you could do before just with the general internet. And although, Bitcoin's been around since, late 2009, January of 2010, it's come into its own now where creating these smart contracts with a lot of instructions in them is very cost effective. And you're going to see, you saw the Texas Exchange announce a year ago that they're going to launch a tokenized equities exchange. You have the U.S. government is going to tokenize student loans. You have all of this is just a move to the next generation of information management. So what seems interesting or unique or maybe even scary to people, it's just the progress that's happening. And to have everything on the blockchain that's meaningful, it'll happen definitely in the near term. And so we're just leading the way with some of these novel projects that are fairly scalable size markets like the music rights. We do have a deal with a student loan company that wants to tokenize student loans, and they're moving very quickly on that. I mentioned the music rights. A local company called Gigastar is tokenizing influencers' income streams. They're using our platform. They're launching in June. So it's there's a lot going on, and this new administration is making it a lot easier to do this.
Well, Tony, if our pro chat is any indication, you had them at wine options. They're all very excited right now. You got Frank saying wine options, very interesting. Nichols, this sounds really cool. I would totally trade wine options. Options Queen, she agrees. Very so. Our pro members are excited, Tony. If they're any indication, I think at least the bleeding edge is going to get on board with this, Tony.
Well, I think there's real underlying there. So like with the refurbished goods, it's recession proof. The deeper a recession looms, the higher up the food chain people looking for deals happen. So, with the ability to take delivery of something for 10 cents or 20 cents on the dollar that hasn't been opened, it's a real marketplace. And same way with investable wines, where people don't want to maybe show their ignorance, but if you see or if you're on a learning curve, and if you see a liquid market and you can jump in, sample some tokens, maybe they sit there, maybe they move the way you expect them to. It's something that at some point you could take delivery and get the wine. So there's always a real world asset behind these ideas.
I love it. Fascinating stuff. And once again, Tony, if folks want to learn more about this or anything else you and the team have cooking up over there at Liquid Mercury, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Well, they can go to our website at liquidmercury.com, but is up there too. It's liquidmercury.com/D as in David, V as in Victor, I-N as in Nancy, and you'll be able to see the press release, sign up for some additional information, and check out our token on a number of overseas exchanges. It's a utility token, or on Uniswap, or on Coinbase Base. It's called the MERC, M-E-R-C, like Mercado or Mercury or merchandise. It's a utility token that has a lot of benefits to it, and still trading it right now. You can still get it under a penny. It's pretty. We got a lot of good plans for that.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Check them out. Liquidmercury.com, the place to go to learn more. Meanwhile, it's time for us to keep on rolling into a little bit of the old Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. We're talking about the big dog, which is Bitcoin, looking a little bit bigger since our last show last week. Finished our show last week, 84,321, coming into the start of the show this week. Following along with a lot of the assets today, looking green today, 88,227 as we kicked off the show. Puts it up not quite 4,000 handles, but pretty darn close, 3,906. since our last show. But Tony, I could talk wine and tokens with you all show, but obviously a lot going on in the world of crypto. Certainly since the last time we chatted, and certainly just in the last few months. You mentioned the election. We saw an enormous rally in Bitcoin towards the end of the last year, beginning of this year. It's come off a wee bit since then, but as I mentioned, we are looking a little bit firmer right now. What are your thoughts on the dramatic Bitcoin in particular rally we saw post-election, and then maybe the equally almost as dramatic sell-off that we've seen since then, sir?
Well, the rally was kind of obvious. I mean, this administration has been overly vocal about how they want to embrace crypto and Bitcoin in particular. I can say as a small business owner, the last 4 years were just horrendous in terms of the SEC governing by enforcement as opposed to setting some good guidelines. So that rally was really a kind of a relief rally. And to get it up over 100,000, 110, whatever the high was kind of a little bit of extra exuberance, but expected. So now we settled back about a 15% correction on that. And I think the correction is a combination of a lot of concerns about the trade wars that are being flexed with the tariffs, but also, you have an extended move, and strong assets do need to take a breather. So, you had Michael Saylor this morning saying that Bitcoin's going to trade at 444,000 by the end of the year, and people are checking in with me saying, "What do you think about this?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't really predict any prices, but I would be personally very surprised if it got much higher than half of that by the end of the year." But what do I know? I'm just a technologist and realize that this is a scarce resource, with limited, you can't print more, limited volume, limited access, and multiple countries, including this morning, China, talking about starting a Bitcoin reserve. So if that takes a toehold here and in China and other countries and states, then the next thing you know, Saylor starts looking very prescient. So I don't think Bitcoin has much more on the downside to do. If it does, it's short term. And I think that other layer one blockchains will also participate in the next move up.
It's funny you mentioned the Bitcoin reserve and indeed the crypto reserve coming out of China. That was, of course, one of the reasons that Bitcoin and indeed crypto rallied so hard post-election. There was a lot of talk about the strategic crypto reserve. When we saw the actual plan for implementation a little while ago, we saw initial pop, and then we kind of came right back down the other side. As they often say, the devil is in the details, and the market clearly didn't like the details they were given on the strategic reserve, not the least of which maybe the fact that they weren't just on the bid supporting Bitcoin prices, but just using assets they've already seized, also incorporating some other altcoins. So people seem to take issue with that structure, and they've taken us down ever since. In fact, Tony, we polled our audience a few weeks ago when all that news was breaking about the crypto reserve. We asked them quite simply, do we need a strategic crypto reserve? Heck yes or hell no. And hell no won it, Tony, with exactly 2/3, 66.7%. Only a third said heck yes. So where do you fall on this issue, Tony? You think we need a strategic crypto reserve in the U.S.?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that the strategic, like the U.S. Strategic Oil Reserve, has a real purpose to fuel our defense, transportation, and defense industry with actual oil. So that makes sense from a strategic point of view. Buying Bitcoin or any other asset of scarcity with U.S. dollars is just proving that the U.S. dollar has every chance of being devalued because the government could print it. So the benefit in them saying we're going to have a strategic reserve of anything that has limited inventory or limited amount of assets is a good thing from the standpoint of soaking up more dollars, but I don't think we have to have this strategic reserve. Now, if the government just said, well, we're going to destroy dollars, if you will, by burying them in Bitcoin at some rate on a monthly or quarterly basis, I think that's bullish for the crypto, and it's actually good for the country to soak up all these extra dollars that are floating around. But do we need a strategic reserve of Bitcoin and Tether, or I forgot what he mentioned, Solana and maybe Monero or whatever that there were 4 of them. I just don't see it being big enough. It's more symbolic. It's like the gold in Fort Knox, if it's still there. It's symbolic. I think all the gold that they say we have in Fort Knox at today's prices is, something like a couple $1 trillion at most. So it can't cover the debt. So what's the difference, right?
Let's go look and see what the difference is this week, listeners out there on the Bitcoin front from a vol and a skew perspective. Remember all this data coming at you courtesy of our friends over there at Amberdata, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. And you literally have no reason not to do so now. That GUI is completely free, so you can get the graphical version of everything we're talking about here and a whole bunch more completely for free. So you have no reason not to check it out. If you did that, if you fired it up and you ran the spectrum of vol from weekly all the way out to, let's say, 6 months, as we like to do, listeners, you would see that for the most part, vol coming in this week, as it is kind of across the board on a lot of assets out there right now. The weekly vol was north of 52 on our last show, 52.6 coming in right now, 43.5, so down about 9 points on the week. Going out to the 30-day vol, a little bit more standardized vol metric, 52.40 on our last show, 45.6 today. And going all the way out 6 months where the hodlers are hanging out, it was a 56 on our last show, coming down to about a 53 right now. Going out to the skew front, let's see what's going on out there. We were looking decidedly optimistic, at least on the nearer dated portion of the skew. We were almost a positive 3 on the weekly skew in Bitcoin last week. That's all gone down to about a -1 right now. So kind of swinging slightly in the other direction, which is kind of interesting. Going out to the 30-day skew front, a little bit different story. We were a -2, so a little bit more bearish on the show last week. It's about a -1 right now, so dialing that one back a little bit. And going out to the 6-month skew, we're at about a 2.4 on the show last week, +3 right now. So kind of interesting tale of different tapes across the term structure there when it comes to skew in Bitcoin. But Tony, I wanted to get your thoughts on this as well, because since the last time we chatted, which has been an eternity, a lot's going on in the world of crypto derivatives, including probably one of the biggest things has been the launch of IBIT towards the end of last year, particularly from a crypto derivatives perspective. IBIT lighting up the options world right now. IBIT, by the way, listeners, 50.25 as we kicked off the show, up about 2.25 points from last week. That ADV, 478,000 contracts, so still threatening 500,000 contracts out there. 275 on the tapes. Doesn't seem like we're going to hit it today, but still a very active product. And that 30-day vol at about a 46, down about 7 points from where we were this time last week, and lining up almost exactly with what we're seeing on Deribit on the 30-day vol front at about a 45.6. But Tony, last year, especially when the ETFs were approved at the beginning of the year, and it took almost the entirety of the year to get the options approved, I was kind of skeptical that we would ever even see these things. And then they launched, and they are now setting the options world aflame, sir. What are your thoughts on the just ridiculous volume we're seeing out there in products like IBIT, Tony?
Well, I just think it's scratching the surface, Mark. I mean, this is early days. One of the things that your pro group probably realizes, but the U.S. options market is as wonderful as it is because of the OCC, the Options Clearing Corporation. And all of the options being traded at the 18 or 19, I lose count, exchanges around the country. They're all fungible, okay? And what we don't have yet today worldwide, because Bitcoin is a international, global tradable asset, is fungibility. But don't despair. Very, very soon, possibly even this year, there are a number of firms, most notably Clear Token, which is a spin out from Nomura. They have a smart contract that very soon, in the next couple months, will make the spot fungible that's traded on different exchanges globally. And then, because we're working very closely with them, they expect by the end of the year, they'll have a smart contract that'll make the options fungible. So you could trade on the CBOE, for instance, or MIAX, or wherever in the US, options, and have fungibility with Deribit, or if Coinbase closes in on them on Coinbase or Binance options. Then this volume, you haven't even scratched the surface. The volume will be immense, amazing. There's an exchange that's launching Friday or Monday. It'll be the first completely regulated crypto options exchange out of London called Global Futures and Options Exchange, GFOX, in partnership, if you will, with London Clearing House. LCH will clear it. The Bank of England and ABN AMRO and Standard Charter are three of the banks that are supporting the clearing. And with Nomura's or Clear Token's fungible clearing contract, regulated contracts traded on GFOX will be fungible with Deribit, will be fungible with OCC contracts, and then people will be hedging and arbing cross jurisdictions. It's going to be huge. It'll make all the stuff that. So I know somebody who told me in March of 2020, when we were in the midst of the initial COVID volatility, that volumes had exploded from like mid-teens millions to mid-20 million per day of cleared contracts. And this guy said, "Hey, you better take advantage of all this volume. You may never see 20 million contract days again once this pandemic stuff is over." Well, we're in the 50s now, so this stuff just keeps growing. On crypto, it's going to make that look like a kiddie parade, quite frankly.
I love it. I love your optimism, sir. It's appropriate as we keep on rolling right on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the altcoin universe, where we explore all the action and everything outside of the big dog, which is Bitcoin, except for right now. And coming into the start of this segment, listeners, we always like to break down a little bit of the old market cap. How's it shaking out there? As you might imagine, that rising BTC tide tends to lift all boats. That's exactly what's going on again. Last week, it cost you about $20.8 billion to break into the top 10 from a market cap perspective. This week, pretty much exactly $1 billion more, $21.8 billion. Still hanging out at Tron at the number 10 spot, listeners. Number 9, we got our old pal Cardano, $25.8 billion. Number 8, it's Doge, still clinging to the number 8 spot, listeners, $27.2 billion. Number 7, USD Coin, $59.5 billion. Number 6, it's Solana, getting back some of what it's lost, $72.6 billion. I know some of our pro members will be psyched to see a little bit of green on Solana right now. Number 5, BNB, it's $90.6 billion. Number 4, it's XRP, hanging out close to 2.5 like it's been glued to for a while, $143.3 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, $143.5. So Tether and XRP once again neck and neck. Number 2, it's ETH, $251.4 billion, and the big dog, of course, Bitcoin, $1.75 trillion worth of market cap. But Tony, one of the ongoing sagas, debates, sources of drama in the world of crypto over the course of the last year has been ETH. There were a lot of people who were very, very hot, very excited about the prospects for ETH. People for years were talking about the flippening when ETH was going to take over the number one spot and kick Bitcoin to the curb. Well, last year and into this year, we didn't really quite see that. In fact, we saw Bitcoin rally, we saw ETH rally, but nowhere near as much. And of course, this week, looking a little bit better, gaining about 138 handles. So back over the 2,000 level, listeners, 2084 to be precise. But Tony, it's been a slog so far this year for the number two cryptocurrency, ETH, off north of 30, 35, close to 40% for the year so far, year to date. So everyone who was holding out hope that this was going to be the year for ETH, Tony, so far not so much. What are your thoughts on the number two cryptocurrency out there kind of struggling?
I like the number 6 better. Look, we do a lot of our work on ETH. It is a good stalwart. It's got some reasonable speed. It's not the fastest, and it goes in fits and starts with coming into favor and then coming out of favor when other new protocols get announced. But I own some. I'm just not as bullish on it as I am with some other protocols like Solana, like Sui. Okay, Sui's if you want to take a flyer on a $2, $2.50 token, it's got a private public network capability. So I'm not as excited about ETH, although this morning I read now some big whales have been accumulating, and so you have technical dynamics going on. But I just think it's a good stalwart. It's easy to use. Most of the tokens that I talked about are going to be ERC20s. So it's a workhorse. I just don't know about it. I think it'll get back to 4,000, but I don't know about it going to 10,000 or anything. It's just doesn't excite us as much as some of these other new protocols.
Yeah, you're not alone in choosing Solana over ETH these days. A lot of people are doing that. Sui also making it onto our radar a few times so far this year as well. So you're not alone in talking those. We'll run through some ETH really quickly here, listeners. We've already been talking for a while, having a good time exploring the intersection of crypto and wine and everything else out here on the show this week. Listeners, ETH, like I mentioned at the start of the show, up about 138 handles. So it's been rare you've had a green week so far this year, listeners. So if you're an ETH bull, I guess take what you can get. A vol coming in, as you might imagine, 7-day vol, 68.85 on the show last week. 59.15 this week. 30-day vol also coming cratering back to earth. It was a 68 on the show last Monday, 60.5. So coming in at full, almost 8 points on the week. And going out to where the hodlers hang out at the 6-month vol, 67.61 on the show last week, 64.67. So also coming in kind of across the board. Skew-wise, last week the sentiment was decidedly bearish. Let's see if that's still the case. Last week on the show, the weekly skew, listeners, over a -4, -4.15. That's been cut pretty much in half. Still bearish, but about a -2 right now. The 30-day skew also pretty markedly bearish last week. -3 1/3. That's been cut down to about -1 1/4 as well. Still obviously negative, but I guess breaking back over 2K has helped ameliorate some of that. And then on the 30-day front, ticking up a little bit. It was positive 1 3/4. It's pretty much always going to be positive, except in dire circumstances, listeners. This week, positive 2 1/3. So ticking up a wee bit. Let's run through some of the other altcoin, then we'll get out of here for this week, listeners. Solana, last show, listeners, 128.93, aka Tony's preferred holding over ETH. 141.72. So all you folks in the live chat who said you've been doing some more nibbling when Solana got back below 150 and certainly down around 125, you're probably happy campers this week, up about 12.80 this week. XRP last show 236, so ticking up a wee bit, up 11 cents, back to close to $2.50, up 11 cents this week to 247. Everyone's favorite Doge, I'm just kidding, of course, 17.5 on the show last week, 18 1/3 this week. And Litecoin last week, 93.18. Coming in the start of the show this week, 94.32, up about $1.14. A few others here. Cardano, 72.5 cents last week, 73.3 cents this week, up a whopping 0.008 cents. Polkadot, 439 last week, 468 this week, up about 29 cents. And everyone's beloved Shiba Inu. Are we getting the Shiba Lambos this week, listeners? Getting a little bit closer. Maybe you got a lug nut on those Lambo hubcaps this week. It was a million zeros, 1308 last week. This week, a whopping 1352. Tony, before we get out of here for this week, you mentioned Sui. Everyone's always got a few interesting altcoin burning up their wallet these days. Any other interesting altcoin or protocols that are catching your eye out there, sir?
Yeah, related is Movement. That is that's a company that actually builds Sui, and they've got their own token. It's if you look at it, it's MOVE. So that is like 43 cents, and it's been as high as 55. We have some of that. Sticking with the base layer, layer one protocols, but we're all in on our own. So anybody who's speculating on utilities, the MERC is definitely something that we're putting everything into, Mark. So big believers in what we do every day.
Well, Tony, I appreciate you joining us this week to talk all things Solana and ETH and wine futures and Sui and MERC and everything else. Tony, we had a pretty wide-ranging discussion this week. Before we go, hit them one more time. If they want to learn more about what you're doing over there at Liquid Mercury or the MERC token itself, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, liquidmercury.com, all one word, liquidmercury.com /DVIN for the information on DVIN's wine platform, and then MERC on Uniswap, and also CEX, a couple other overseas exchanges that we're on, if you want to take a look at our token. So let's not make it that much longer between these times we chat, Mark.
5 years isn't.
It's always
eternity.
good to talk to you.
5 years is eternity, sir, so we'll definitely have to do it more frequently. In the meantime, check it out, listeners. Liquid Mercury, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. And if you are intrigued by utility tokens, then by all means, check out the MERC, MERC, on whatever platform you're trading your tokens out there on. And of course, if you're checking things out in the crypto space, make sure you check out our friends over there at Amberdata, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. That's going to do it for us on the network today. Back again tomorrow with a great pro Q&A session. I'll be joined by Steve Sosnick from Interactive Brokers, tackle a lot of your questions about all things options and vol. Should be fun. Wednesday, of course, our usual doubleheader of Options Bootcamp, which again, a lot of listeners of this show should be checking out, as well as, of course, the newest addition to the network, the Futures Rundown. Yes, they drag me kicking and screaming to the world of futures. You can check it out. We talk a lot of crypto there, including ETH futures. They've been the subject of much debate. We talked about the brand new Solana future just last week. So that show very heavy on crypto these days. Make sure you're checking it out. Thursday back, of course, for our doubleheader. Our friends at Cboe and the Flowmaster on the option block, followed by our friends at CME and This Week in Futures Options back to back. And then Friday, of course, Volatility Views, and we're back one final time exclusively for you pro folks to talk some unusual activity and options oddities. If you want to check that out, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And then we're back again next Monday, another great episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amberdata. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amberdata delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amberdata eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.